Hi everyone, and welcome to Bringing Light to the Shadows, a video series that I am doing related to topics that are discussed in my book, Shadow of the Steeple. My name is Shawnee Kurth, and I am so excited to take you guys through this journey with me. It's going to be so much fun. So for my first interview, I've been having a ton of you reach out to me asking questions on how to write a book, how to publish a book, how to achieve the ultimate dream of becoming a published author. And originally I was just going to make a video just discussing my own personal journey towards writing a book and publishing a book, but then I decided that's lame. You guys should get to hear multiple different perspectives and get to hear from a lot of different people about their writing journey, because everyone's journey is different. So for this interview, I teamed up with author AJ Flick to discuss her writing and publishing journey, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So with that said, enjoy the interview. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was a journalist for many, many years. I went to the U of A, University of Arizona, and worked at a whole bunch of different jobs from Arizona to DC and back, and loved it. I came back to Tucson in 1993, and I started with the Tucson Citizen, which was then an afternoon newspaper in a 2-newspaper town back when we had those. And did copy desk. I was on the features desk. I was editor of our very popular entertainment guide. And the last 8 years that I was there, which was the last 8 years of the existence of the Citizen, no correlation there. I wasn't the cause of the end. But I went over to the news side and I covered courts.
Okay.
Which is a job that I was always interested in. And when I was in high school, I was working as a journalist part-time in high school in my hometown. And I covered this huge murder trial. And I'd go to school in the morning and then take over for the other reporter in the afternoon for a TV station I worked at.
Oh, wow.
And so it really got me interested in crime and court reporting and things like that. So and that, it led to the a high profile crime trial that I covered at the Citizen. The murder of a very popular children's eye surgeon. He was stabbed to death in the parking lot of his medical complex.
Wow.
And they accused another eye surgeon of hiring a hitman to kill him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And there's other things involved, and, friendships and sex and drugs, and there's not rock and roll, but there was some country music in there.
Wow.
And so that actually led to, while I was still at the newspaper, a publisher contacting me and saying the magical words that I always wanted to hear: how'd you like to write a book?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if it was real or not, but he was serious. And there were 2 trials. And after the second trial, I wrote a book. And so we were going to have it published. We were actually a week away from going to the printer. And there were some legal issues with one person in the book who didn't want to be in the book.
Oh.
And there really weren't any legal grounds to stop us from publishing the book as it was, but the publisher eventually decided that he didn't want to publish it. So it sat on a shelf, and I tinker with it every once in a while. And I over the next few years, I got lots of questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is out there on the internet, called Murder in the Old Pueblo. That was what the title was then.
Oh, wow.
And it looks like it was published.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Oh, wow.
And eventually, over the years, I got to know a lot of other authors, and especially true crime authors, because that was the genre that I really wanted. And I got to know other authors, and one of them steered me toward this small press in Colorado called Wild Blue Press. And in 2018, 10 years after the book should have been published, it was actually published.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
That's
that's it
really
in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That's such a cool story. So, have you always kind of had a desire to write a book, or did it just so happen with this case the opportunity just came up?
No, since I was little, I'm like the weirdo kid. Since I was the first thing I knew that I wanted to be was a writer.
Yeah.
I didn't know all the time what kind of writer, but I loved to write. I had parents and teachers who encouraged me. And my big sister, we were a year apart. She got on the school newspaper because she was a year ahead of me. And so when I got to her grade, of course, I had to be on the school newspaper.
Oh, of course.
And so I started doing that. And for a few years, when I was a teenager, still in high school, I got a job. I interned at a TV radio station. And when the internship was over, they hired me. And so I was still in high school, and I was producing newscasts, writing scripts, reporting, and it was a great experience. And I thought I wanted to be a broadcast reporter, and went to the University of Arizona to study journalism with a broadcasting minor. And then along the way, decided to switch them. I'd rather be a print reporter.
Okay.
So, but still, all along from the time I was little, the idea of being able, I loved books. My sister and I devoured books.
Yeah.
And our parents loved books. They were always reading. And just the idea that there would be a book, I would go into bookstores and just imagine where my book would be.
Yeah, your book was going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially when I started, doing crime writing, and thought, wow, I could do a true crime book. I could really write a book about something. And I would go to the true crime section and look.
Right.
There's lots of all these greats, and my book would be right there, just about a foot away from John Grisham over here.
Right. Just right in there.
And I tell you what, it is still an incredible thrill to go into a Barnes and Noble or a local bookstore and see my book there.
That's got to be the coolest feeling. Just seeing your name like up on the shelf.
Yes, it's incredible. I still get a kick out of it. I hope I always get a kick out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Is your book near John Grisham's?
Well, yeah, if it's depending on the store, because of, but yeah, on certain stores, I'm just like, I'm above him in some stores, because
there you go.
So, John and I hang out all the time, and a few shelves away from Ann Rule, but it's there.
It's there. It's close. That is so awesome. So what would you say are some of the biggest similarities between like traditional journalism and writing a book, like in the research and things like that?
I tell you what, when I did, it was a little unusual the way it came about, because I had already, from start to finish, from the time that the crime happened through the trials, I was there covering it every step of the way. So when it came time to write it as a book, I had all the research done. I didn't have to do interviews. I already done a million interviews, and I had all the police, records and court records. I sat through every minute of both trials. And so it really came together within a matter of, I'd say, 5 weeks.
Wow.
I took 3 weeks off of work, right off to be able to sit and write it nonstop. And then the last 2 weeks was nights and weekends. And then, of course, over the next month or so, it was the editing, with going back and forth between the editor. But when I remember sitting in my house that I lived in there, working on the manuscript, and being able to write it as a book was just, it felt so liberating.
Yeah.
I could take my time and discuss, I could introduce characters and I could describe things that you can't in the longest, even the longest newspaper article.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could put all of the things, which a lot of people got mad at, I could put all of the things that never fit into the newspaper articles, but they worked perfectly fine in a book to show someone's character and the way they lived and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was incredibly proud of the manuscript as it was in 2010. However, after that, after the paper closed and the book didn't publish, I still wanted to get it published, and I started to go to a lot of things like the Tucson Festival of Books.
Okay.
And I started taking every workshop and seminar and lecture from these published authors, agents. I met my agents at the Tucson Festival.
Oh, that's so cool.
Of Books. I went to the LA Festival of Books to see how theirs was and what I could learn there. Online courses, any kind of, so much out there. And I started learning a lot more about writing a book than writing a very, very, very long newspaper article.
Yeah.
And my agent helped as well. The first chapter, she said, nope, that's not going to work. And I said,
you're like, wait, what?
They discover the body. That's where all the TV, movies start. They
right, yeah.
The body. And but no, she says, no, with a book it's different. And she taught me a lot about how I needed to have one of the central characters in the first chapter to pull people in. And so I thought about it and I thought, oh, this is perfect. And so I brought this other chapter up, part of another chapter up, to put that in there. Along the way, I even cut a whole chapter out.
Wow.
Late in the process, because the publisher's editor he says, I see what you're trying to do here, but it's really taking me out of the story.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? At the time, this was really important to have in there. It was, and what I thought was an important part of the whole story. But looking at it now, nope. Because he's, they even said, maybe I could move it around. I could include it, maybe not have it a whole chapter. And I said, no, yeah. I don't need that in there.
Yeah, just get rid of it.
And so it's just like I learned so much, even though I wish it would have been published when it first was supposed to be published, because maybe I'd be on my 10th book by now. Not novel, but I can't write novels. Kudos to people who can.
Yes.
But that's not me. And it's a much better book for having been published later, I think.
Yeah.
I'm proud of both manuscripts, but I still look at it sometimes and I'm like, oh.
I know. There's no more changes. Yeah.
The night before the publishing, it was the launch date. I was like, can I get all the copies back and rewrite that one chapter?
Yeah, pull them all back.
Yeah. But I suppose a lot of, that's just me, but and I've heard that from other authors too. But I'm really was excited the way it changed. And I could see when I was going through it to present it to Steve Jackson at Wild Blue Press that it really was a lot better. And I said, I can't give it to you right away because I have to write this chapter and I think I need to move that chapter.
Yeah.
But he understood. He's a New York Times bestselling author himself. So
wow, that's awesome.
Perfectly. And I'm piecing together a book proposal with my agent, and I can't wait to start writing that one.
That's awesome.
Everything I've learned, and I still learn. Some of my author friends and other authors that I see, you can't go to their book signings anymore, but
yeah, I know. One day.
Their book readings or anything like that, because I just always want to learn what they do. I watch what they do to publicize it, and because that's a whole nother thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like I just want to learn as much as I can to make it good, and I'm just thrilled that people like it and want my next book when they ask me, and especially like professional like podcasters, they say, "What's your next book? I want to read it." And that's just so thrilling for me, because the whole idea was, Steve Jackson, the publisher, asked me a long time ago. He said, is this the one book you've always wanted to publish? And then, which is fine. He says, or do you have others in mind? I said, oh, I've got others in mind. Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I really, yeah, I'd love to be able to get to the point where that's what I can do, and I can focus most of my time on. Not yet at that point yet.
Yeah.
But I would just so love to be there, because I really felt like it was a calling.
Yeah.
It was a calling to be a writer. I knew that, and I'm glad that this happened to me at certain times in my life where I knew I couldn't have done this at 25. Nothing against 25-year-olds who can write books and write them well.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 26.
Yeah, you're close.
But yeah, so I just love the art of writing. I love the science of writing. I love the intricacies of crime.
Yes.
Because to me, it's like getting inside people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that for a lot of people over the years who I've interviewed, from politicians to celebrities to criminals, sometimes all in the same.
Right.
But it's that criminal, from even the judges, the lawyers, the people involved in it, the victims, to the criminals themselves, being able to present all of them as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Because my philosophy is that there aren't evil people. People aren't monsters.
Yes.
People do very evil things and monstrous things. And what makes them do that? What makes them tick? And
right.
If I can just get close to just kind of, because most of us, luckily, will never be there.
Right.
But it's just, that just intrigues me about crime writing, and being able to present what I really wanted to do was present it almost as a novel with fleshed out characters. And some people have told me that they didn't realize they were reading a true crime book.
Yeah, they thought it was just a regular novel.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's like a huge compliment.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to do, to be able to be fortunate to have, from a small publisher, and do really good business. It's still selling, and there's still interest in it. And then also for me also to grow as a writer. And as I was, saying to you previously when we were talking, I learned so much from other writers of all sorts of genres.
Oh yeah.
And so that I'm, anytime anybody wants to ask me about my path and how it took me, because everybody's paths are different.
Oh, absolutely.
But if I can help another writer get through to actually being a published author, I'm more than happy, because when I first started writing for newspapers, the thrill of seeing my byline, and my parents would cut out all the articles. And even now, if I write for a magazine or something, I love seeing my byline over something that I'm proud of. And to have that book on the shelf, not too far from John Grisham.
Right, exactly.
Row or two away from Ann Rule. It's such a thrill.
The best feeling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what piece of advice do you think that you would like to give new up and coming authors? Like, what's one piece of advice you would like them to walk away with?
I would say, well, I know the most common thing people say is write every day. Every day you should write. And I'm like,
yep.
Give yourself a break.
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
That's not a magical rule,
Yeah.
It's not going to make you a better writer if it's homework.
Yeah. If it's a chore. Yeah.
Yeah. However, as a writer, I find I'm usually always thinking about writing if I'm not writing. And I find myself even, maybe waiting for a friend and I watch people, and I'm writing in my head. I'm thinking about ways to describe them. So don't take that literally. Don't take what anyone says. Maybe they did it, maybe, and I didn't. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, try to seek out opportunities to write. There's so much out there. Like I said, the Tucson Festival of Books, there are festivals of books all over the place for those who aren't in Tucson or Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Even up in Phoenix, there's a bunch of great opportunities for.
Oh, there's a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. And as an author too, whether you're trying to be an author or you are an author, take advantage of everything you can. The best advice I got before I got published was from a publisher friend who said, when my book came out, don't publicize the book, which sounds weird.
Yeah.
Publicize yourself.
Okay.
Because if you focus on your book and all you're doing is publicizing your book, people will buy your book. But if you're publicizing yourself, they'll buy that book and they'll come back to get your next book and your next book.
Mm-hmm.
So every opportunity you can, learn about writing. That's what I would say. Just ask questions. And, there are dumb questions. I was a journalist for years and years. And the whole thing about there are no dumb questions. Yeah, they're dumb.
You've probably heard them all. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me as a writer, there are no aspiring writer or starting out writer or anything can ask me a question that I would consider too dumb to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So meet people, go to these events that many times are free. You don't have to take that creative writing course at the junior college unless you want to.
Yeah.
I personally did not benefit from creative writing courses when I was at the U of A.
No, me neither.
I didn't flunk them, but I also didn't see the point of a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
Is it real? But yeah, if you want to take the course, take the course, but don't feel like you have to get that degree or that master's degree. And just explore your the artist side of it, the art of writing, I think is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate it enough. And I don't think I did. Being in journalism for as long as I didn't see it as an art. It was my living. And
right. It was just something you did. Yeah.
Yeah. But now definitely, and every once in a while there would be something come up that I would say, wow, that came out of me.
Yeah, right. Did I say that?
And a lot of other crap too. That's another thing. If you write a lot, it's like as a journalist, not everything is going to be entered in a contest.
Yes, absolutely. Some of it's like,
yeah. So yeah, just take all the opportunities you can and explore. As I said, as a 25-year-old, did I know what kind of writer I was to understand the kind of writer I was? I didn't. I don't even think I understood who I was.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But over the years as a writer, and it just this strong urge to actually write a book, to have it on the shelves, just was always there in the back of my head. And when we were covering the trial, there was a lot of, which some people got mad at me for talking about the who will play who in the movie part of it.
Yeah.
If it's a big trial, everybody says that.
Absolutely. You're like, okay, which actor would play this guy?
Yeah. And everybody was in on it. And I wrote a blog about it and people got mad at me. I'm like, come on. And, but at the time they also said, who's going to write the book? And there was another reporter from the other daily newspaper covering it as I was. And right away she said, oh, she had no desire to write a book. And I'm like, I do. I want to write the book. That's why, I was dodging that publisher's calls for a long time because I didn't know why he was calling me.
Yeah.
I thought he was calling me because he had just published this like 4-inch thick book about DUI law in Arizona that I knew the lawyer, and I thought, I don't want to have to read that. But no, he was, actually calling because he had followed my stories and he liked the way I wrote. And so yeah, so try not to miss those opportunities.
All right, you guys. So that was part 1 of a 3-part interview series that I did with author AJ Flick. I'm so grateful to her for joining me. We had so much fun. I had so much to talk to her about. So much, in fact, that I did have to split this interview series into 3 parts. So you just watched part 1. Parts 2 and 3 will be coming shortly. In the meantime, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates on when parts 2 and 3 are released. Also, you can find me on Facebook at Shani Kurth, author, or you can just search up Books by Shani. You can also find me on Instagram at Shani Kurth, just my name, and I'll be posting all the updates there for the interviews as well as updates for Shadow of the Steeple. So again, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys for part 2.